다 고란 다 아마 시려지만 리드 주고 나게 되게 고라 통사 줘봐 보는 나를路呢 도도지만 전디요 저서 다 tena게 보고 되는 게 시그에서 그랑 시죠 맞아봐 다른 거야 차차시네 될 질라지 순대지 깨요 미 나부들 네 수로 도도지는데 되는 게 샤스지
So, so although the horse itself, the mother horse was about to die because she had this great injury, but still she was she was forgotten completely her own suffering and still tried to protect the baby which fell out and tried to lick it and then screaming and like this and try to protect the child. So this shows the completely the altruistic kind of the love or the kindness which mother has towards the child. And also usually the cows and the yaks and so on, they are peaceful animal. They cannot fight with tigers and leopards and so on. But when they have little calves with them, then in order to protect that, then they try to fight with the beast with all their might till they get killed. So this is not because they are showing off or because they are very brave or something, but they do it for the sake of the child. And also the birds like hen, usually they are very coward kind of animal. They have no strength, but they always run away. But when they have little birds, little babies, then they can be very dangerous. They can be aggressive and very dangerous, and even cats or dogs come by, they attack and bite them on the head or like this. They are completely they don't hesitate at all to attack anybody come around. So all these are examples of the kindness of the mother. So we should apply these different examples and reasons in our meditation to realize the kindness of the mother, and then apply this to all sentient beings, equally to all sentient beings, that they all have done this to oneself for so many times. And so now, after remembering the kindness of the sentient beings, the kindness of the mother, then one should develop the mind to repay the kindness, to repay that great kindness. Somebody, one who remembers the kindness of somebody, knows the kindness but doesn't worry about to repay that kindness, is considered to be very very inferior, very selfish.
가진 솔루트 가진 솔루 팽기도 상도당에 생전 탐제려야 주자라테 그 초부서야 좋나 두개의 말을 생제 받으면 거요래 강송의 세진이와 도리요자 데레베 주자라 그 소토야 요마 토베 언도 돈에 생제를 해주신도베 방저를 처지 대산에 행위야 말 그런서.
So now, when we consider about the ways of repaying the kindness of the sentient beings, for example, if we try to repay this in a material way, for example, by making all sentient beings wealthy and rich. First of all, it is quite impossible to make everyone rich and wealthy. There are sentient beings that are countless, and the beings of different realms, inferior realms, and so on. It's very difficult to fulfill all their needs, or to give with the material needs. Even if they get so much wealth and possessions, that even if we could give each sentient being great wealth, the filling the whole, filling the whole world, but that is still not a real. That's still not a real help, because it does not help such a wealth, even if they had very much. So it does not help them. In the it cannot give them the real need, or cannot help them for the real need.
수순주야 요말때 연의 생제의 팽말 고란소다 양바루치 매바체 가게 마베 세제 고란소고 지와 가마베 델사지기 베 유기 제고 컬러기 제고 베 감메기 처음부터네 타이 참바자지 데 지와 마물렌 사르도 고도 수순 소바디 고에 분소고 리네 다 냐와나라 루게 냐와나 이다나 루게 이다 도지 루게 도는 빠도 매바 냐네 데 저는 로주기 펜사네 마토바
So the material possessions and wealth and this kind of samsaric perfections, even if they get, is not real help for them, because all those sentient beings, by the force of their own virtuous karma, they have taken rebirth as gods, or rebirth as great conquerors, or great, very wealthy people, and like that. With all the perfections, with all their need, so many times in the samsara, but all these kind of samsaric perfections are subject to degeneration and subject to impermanence. So they, although they have gone through such experiences, but they again fall back into sufferings, and they suffer the sufferings of the lower rim, sufferings of the poverty, sufferings of a different kind. So the best way, the real way to help the sentient being is to fulfill the ultimate wish of the true, the ultimate wish of the sentient beings. So the true wish, the real wish of all sentient beings, the common wish of all sentient beings, that is to gain happiness and to be free from suffering. So if the sentient beings attain unchangeable happiness, or everlasting happiness, a real happiness, and be free from the suffering and the cause of it, then it is then it's a real help. It is a valid help or support. So the state which is free from all sufferings and their cause, and which has the real freedom and the everlasting happiness and peace and happiness, that is the state of Buddhahood. So when we think about the kindness of the sentient beings, the great kindness of all sentient beings, then compassion or the loving kindness, these two aspects of the mind will develop. It can be sometimes compassion comes before, sometimes loving kindness. There's no certainty about this. For example, then when we think, when we remember and realize the great kindness of the sentient beings, then a very great feeling of nearness, very closeness to the sentient beings, and all the sentient beings would appear sort of dear to one's heart. Then it is the loving kind, maitre, or the loving kindness. So so when we sincerely wish to give happiness to all those sentient beings, and to wish them to be endowed with the happiness and wish to give happiness, that is the loving or loving kindness aspect of the mind. And by seeing the great suffering, when we see the great suffering of the sentient beings, the general sufferings of the samsara and the individual the sufferings of the samsara, like of the lower realms and higher realms and so on, as Je Tsong Rinpoche explained last time, then that would give rise to the compassion. So, like in this, in the practice of the small scope, we meditate on the suffering of those, the general and particular sufferings of the samsara upon oneself, or oneself in those sufferings and so on. But now here we have to change the view and try to see the other sentient beings in such a suffering, and in those different sufferings. So we must meditate individually on all the sufferings of different realms, and for example in the hell realms, in the hot hell realms or cold hell realms, they are all these realms of the hell. They are full of sentient beings, and sentient beings are constantly going through that type of suffering, great sufferings. In the same way, the preta realms are also full of sentient beings right now, in such sufferings, and also the animals, as we see many of them around us, they also go through lots of sufferings, and sufferings caused by people, caused by themselves, each other, like killing each other, eating each other. So it's almost like most of the animals are are born to be like a food for somebody else, or an animal or a human being. So this is the way how they live, and so they go through all this kind of those beings are going through this kind of suffering. And so when we contemplate very much on the suffering of the sentient beings, then automatically a sincere aspiration or wish will rise to separate them from such a suffering. That is the compassion aspect. Karuna. And then we should try to search if there are anyone who is really happy, who has really the happiness in the samsara. And if we take few examples, like very rich people, very high people, on who have sort of all their needs and so on, kings or powerful people and so on. They're supposed to be examples of in general, they are supposed to be happy and supposed to have all their needs and so on. But if we analyze very precisely and very deeply, those people are the ones who are suffering most. So they, although superficially they are very very colorful, they can be very impressive and very fancy, and may appear as very happy and so on, but in reality, in depth, they if we go into the depth, then they spend their time, as Je explained before, in suffering, principally with mental sufferings, worries and depressions and so on. Not only they suffer this kind of difficulties, they also accumulate and produce, constantly accumulate and produce cause of more sufferings for themselves and for other sentient beings. And this can give even heavier result in the future. So therefore, those people are also no better. So by seeing such beings, their present situation and their future situation, the future danger and suffering, then we again should generate even greater compassion towards them. So the only way and the true method or way to liberate those beings in the suffering, to liberate them from their suffering, and to prevent the others to fall into such a suffering, is to make them or to help them to practice or to abandon the cause of the suffering and to accumulate the wholesome seed or wholesome cause for the happiness. So, so that is the way to get the way the sentient beings from their suffering. But the sentient beings in the unfortunate realms, they are so because they are so much oppressed under such heavy suffering, so they have not even a moment of freedom to do anything about it and about their suffering. And those who are on the fortunate realms, like human, or who has taken human rebirth, they, or most of the people, they do exactly what they shouldn't do and just do everything opposite. And because of that, then although they have obtained a good opportunity or a fortunate rebirth, but they are subject to degeneration and again experience greater sufferings. So therefore, this situation of the sentient beings, so when we understand this situation of the sufferings, then great compassion, a very sincere compassion will grow towards them.
Langdor Golo to Chaba Yinza, and Devata Mate, Dome Shadab in Narnibe, Tabe, which is Chayo Yinza, Cross Dometa Tibet, to the sound on the Shino Niriji, Karakaviche or somebody who toasted.
So, although the sentient beings, what they desire, what they wish is happiness, but they are ignorant about the ways of accumulating the cause of happiness, and instead they produce more and more cause of the suffering. And although they wish to be free from suffering, they are again ignorant about the ways and means to get rid of the suffering, and keep on producing, running towards the cause of the suffering. So so we develop a very great compassion towards these sentient beings, the ignorant sentient beings. So those so to the state of mind which sincerely wishes the sentient beings to be happy and to attain happiness, that is loving kindness, or a maitri, or a champa in Tibetan, and that state of mind which wishes the sentient beings to separate from their sufferings, which wishes to separate the sentient beings from their suffering, that is compassion, or nyingje in Tibetan. So those two states of the mind, they are interrelated, so they are interdependent. If one has developed, the other automatically comes with. So by having meditated on the recognition of all sentient beings as mother, and remembering the kindness, and repaying the kindness, with these stages, then one a very close link or a relation develops towards all sentient beings. And so this kind of very closeness, or the seeing all sentient beings as something very close or something very dear to one's heart, this attitude is called Yong Champa. That means it is also kind of a loving kindness, which sees sentient beings agreeable, which makes the sentient beings agreeable.
심지어 냥타베 추도 상로도네 심지어 동해베 나루베 대화는 그런 소리고 시작에 갈려가고 동해베 나르네 예송송의 처음에 가신 예송은 단다요 가신 예송은 상인하니 시내베 민족마다가 된 만족을 해서 세계 냥타베 추도 상로도나 인지도 수치 못 지그래.
So the more we think about the sentient beings, how they lack happiness, then this the loving kindness generates more strongly, and the more we think about how they are suffering, how much they are suffering in the samsara, the general sufferings, and also the individual sufferings of unfortunate realms and so on. Some are already suffering, some are near to such a suffering. The more we think about this or meditate on that, then the compassion aspect will generate strongly. So then, so with the development of those two states of mind, the love and compassion, then they automatically will lead us to determine one's mind, or to make a real decision to accomplish this goal, to accomplish the goal for all the sentient beings. And then when we realize that all the sentient beings are ignorant and they are unable to fulfill such a goal, then a sincere thought will generate in us to take the responsibility upon oneself. So if one meditates very strongly on that, and also pray to the Guru for the blessing, and this way one continues to meditate, then this will help us to grow the courage. One needs strength or courage of the mind to take such a responsibility. Then after one's mind becomes very courageous to take the full responsibility without any doubt or without any hesitation. So when we take this responsibility, taking it as a natural responsibility, since the sentient beings are like one's own mother, have shown so much kindness, and one is completely indebted to the kindness of the sentient beings, and they at the present are ignorant about the ways and means to accomplish the goal of happiness. And so therefore, now while we have still the opportunity, and while we have still, our wisdom eyes is still more open at this moment, so at this time then one determines to take this responsibility and to accomplish this great goal for all sentient beings. And this courage, or this state of mind, is called laksam. That means laksam. That means superior thought or supreme thought.
就其他去，怎么弄的嘛？这都是我讲呀嘛，这个是那鸟，买米龙，见过去，罗马头，要不做那吃的吃的，有那个的吃的，
Anything what 잠깐은
是就吃的，
no
啥就从
no no let
不赚钱。
no
是是，俺们拍个没上去拿了的，俺们过来拿了呀，俺们都见过去，
no
交不起，啥也没，管也没，拿在拿，如果那个拿，什么的那个时候那个鸟，没龙，我在那边去搞完之后呢，吃的吃的，路上的啥家也不买吧，羊现在有啥就干了嘛，从这啥这几个月呢，那你肯定这个情况都是，这是我知道。
So one should think that, for example, if one is in such a position that one is well and has all one's needs, one has power, one has strength, and one has great wealth, and one has everything what one needs, very rich, and so on. And then someday, if one's own present mother, one's own mother, is in a very difficult situation, in a very desperate situation, and completely weak and completely, for example, gone crazy or completely become blind, or and have no help and support at all, and running around, and maybe even a danger to of fall from a cliff or something. And in such a moment, if one remains completely indifferent, absolutely not concerned, not paying no attention, that would generally would be a very very shameful thing.
아마 그게 영칼을 좀 미롱녀 나들이 터도 제대 보고 내게 보고 또왜 자 칼라야고사 배 점어지 배 예동 때문에 또왜 나와지고 제대는 매주 가르쳐.
So if one's mother in such a condition, and then if one is just spend time eating very good meal, delicious meals, and maybe singing and dancing or like this, if one spends time like this, then that would generally would consider something very bad and something despisable by everybody.
어디 자꾸 보고 보게 되다. 그때부터는 내려로 좀 먹고 튀 하우제 사통 기부터 되지 통. 그래 아무래도 그게 다 나게요. 서야요. 그야요. 묘디요. 로어리 체케요. 다 그냥 봐. 묘장제 이왕만 총대 지우도 다도 그 뒤에 때문에 그러게 나도 막 다 너무 보고 더도 교담에 봤어 그래.
So a normal person would then despise and criticize and despise such person very much, and they all think that's really very wicked. Such a person is very wicked, who has no heart, who has no completely who no heart, and absolutely wicked and selfish, and something very inferior, something very bad, as a normal person would consider that. So in the same way, all the sentient beings, like in that example, all the sentient beings who are like one's mother, all the sentient beings, they are in a very difficult situation. Although they are all not sick. For example, they are not sick with certain very much all the time.
Never make on the chocolate to many Shawkasha Shigre. Sijan Taji, Massijan Taji, Kodang as Song do. Kodang as Song do, Naratella, Pentabjek, Pentoyame, Trade the Tassame, Yerzimu, Dong Nabu, the which can never child.
So the ordinary sickness or temporary sickness can be cured with medicine and so on, but the deeper affliction of all the sentient beings in the samsara, the affliction of the various samsaric sufferings and their cause is not something which is curable by a few medicine. And in the same way, the sentient beings in the samsara, although they are not blind in the sense that they have no physical eyes or something, but they are lacking the eyes of the wisdom to see what is right and what is wrong, what is to be abandoned and what is to be developed. They are totally ignorant about it. So that eye is lacking. So an ordinary blind people can be, although they have no eyes, they can be guided by somebody. Even a dog can guide them. So this is still not a big problem. But the kind of the blindness of the wisdom eye, the lacking the wisdom eye of the for the sentient beings, that is something much more. It's much harder and much worse because they are guideless. There are no one to guide them on the right path. Even if there comes a guide or guidance, they are unable to follow the guidance. Now, so this way, the situation of the sentient beings is very difficult. So so that is the situation of the general sentient beings in the samsara. But at the present, fortunately, oneself is in slightly in different position. That we still by the help through the help of the one's spiritual guide or guidance, the eyes of the wisdom are opened for the moment, and we are also we know a little bit what is to abandon and what is to be what is to develop, and we know also the ways and means to prevent the sufferings and to prevent the sufferings of unfortunate realms and so on. So one is in a fortunate situation at this time. So while we have such a opportunity, and we have such a great advantage or opportunity we have now in hand, and then instead of helping those sentient beings, if one is only concerned about one's own liberation or for one's own benefit, and try to get away oneself from all the problems, and seeking liberation for oneself, and try to do some practices and meditations and so on to gain a liberation or freedom for oneself, that would be a most it's a wicked thing that one can do, that would even displease all the enlightened ones. So by remembering the kindness of the sentient beings and how one is indebted to the kindness of all those sentient beings, and how one is fortunate to have certain capacity or certain possibilities. With this thinking, then one should no. So with this thought in the mind, then one should make complete decision, determine one's mind without any second thought. One should make the decision to take the responsibility of sentient beings upon oneself. One should take it as a natural responsibility, which of individual oneself, which one cannot leave for anybody else, and cannot transfer on anybody else, since this is one's own responsibility, because the sentient beings have benefited oneself, and we oneself is indebted to their kindness, so therefore there's no other solution than taking it upon oneself. And then we should meditate, and we should analyze whether we have the capabilities to accomplish that responsibility. So if we look within oneself, whether and search if we have the capacity, the real capability to help all sentient beings, then to be true to oneself, then one finds that one is completely lacking. Right now, one is completely lacking the abilities, let alone all other sentient. Even to help one sentient being in a really in a correct way, in a complete way, is quite impossible within our capacity. So we are for the moment unable to establish even one sentient being to establish it to the state of enlightenment. Although we are unable to do it now, but we must make the effort so that it will be possible for us to do. So then if one, when one looks for some help, who can really fulfill that goal, such a great aim, then one realizes that only somebody who is fully enlightened or attain the state of full enlightenment can fulfill such a great task. So by seeing this indispensability of the full enlightenment to help properly the sentient beings to fulfill this great aim, then one generates the aspiration or the will or aspiration to accomplish, to attain that state of full enlightenment by oneself. So if one search the state of full enlightenment or Buddhahood just for one's own personal benefit, so that one will be happier or have some powers or something like that, that is completely wrong motivation, incorrect motivation, and it will never be fruitful. So the motivation is to attain the full enlightenment state solely for the benefit of the sentient, for the sake of helping all the sentient beings. Then it is correct motivation, and that motivation is bodhicitta. So when bodhicitta, correct and sincere bodhicitta, develops in one's mind, then one becomes a bodhisattva. That is the moment when one becomes a bodhisattva, and one becomes what is called the sons of the Buddha, and so on. So the benefit or the quality of this mind is immeasurable, cannot be explained in few words. So once in Tibet, in a country, there was a famine, and so by this a family were all starving, almost starving to death, having nothing to eat. So the father of the family then was looking around in the house everywhere to find something to eat, and couldn't find anything else. And finally, he found a piece of just a piece of meat. So then first he thought of sharing this little piece of meat with all his families. Then he thought, then this way, then it would not really fill the stomach of everybody, would not really help to nourish everybody, and so they eventually they will all die. So instead he ate all this whole big this piece by himself.
And says that Pagan Tambuchani, Machiluma turned to type to Shamando, and it's a matter of the Zeno Kala, Sayachi Zeni, Aki, Namiso, didn't come as Sotober.
And by eating this piece of meat, then he gained strength. He gained strength so that he could go out, he could make a journey, and to look for some more food, and he could do all these things. And then he brought more food to his family and fed all the members, and then everybody was relieved from the difficulty. In the same way, while we are within the samsara, so oneself beings wandering in the samsara, then there's not one cannot help very much other sentient beings. It's difficult, samsaric sentient beings, to help each other. Although one can help a little bit, but they are not. It is still not satisfactory, and it's not very powerful help. One cannot really help very much. So, in order to gain the strength and the power to help every sentient being in a much more complete and much greater way, one must attain the enlightenment. First, one seeks the enlightenment or Buddhahood for oneself, so that one will get the necessary power, the capacity to fulfill the aim. So when the bodhicitta generates in one's mind, from then on, then one will automatically strive to accomplish the goal of enlightenment. This mind, the bodhicitta itself, will push us, will urge us automatically to accomplish the goal, to engage in all the necessary practices and so on. By its own power, we will develop all the necessary qualities. So bodhicitta is called the trunk, or the pillar, or the trunk of the path of the great vehicle. If that is erected, then all the other bodhisattva qualities would naturally grow without problem. If bodhicitta is lacking, then one cannot claim to be a practitioner of great vehicle or Mahayana great vehicle, and then tantra the practice of tantra or to follow the path of tantra is out of question. So there is no way to attain enlightenment. And also for purifying unwholesome actions of karma, the refuge and the generation of bodhicitta are the two most powerful remedies or antidotes. If one has bodhicitta, then very easily the great karmic obstacles can be purified. The reason for that is that all kinds of unwholesome actions or karma that we accumulate now, they are included in two kinds. Either they are karma which is in connection with the sentient beings, which we have accumulated in connection with the sentient beings, or in connection with the triple gem. So there are no other karmas. unwholesome karma we produce. They are all in those two categories. For example, the 10 non-virtuous actions, the 10 in the if we count the 10 non-virtuous actions, then the first, the killing, that's also something in relation with the sentient being, because if we kill a sentient being. And in the same way, to steal, that is also related with the sentient beings. Also, sexual misconduct, that is also in relation with the sentient beings. And then lying, that is also cheating sentient beings. One cannot cheat a Buddha. So all what one cheat, who one can cheat are the sentient beings in the samsara. So all those four are karmas which we accumulate in relation with sentient beings. And like that also gossiping and slandering and all those other negative actions that are all in relation with the sentient beings. And then the other types of karma, which is not directly related to the sentient beings, are again related with the triple gem. Wrong views about various things, and then despising dharma and disrespect and so on. Although there are various other types of non-virtuous actions, they are in relation. We have created them in relation with the triple gem. And those karma which we have accumulated in relation with the triple gem are purified by taking refuge in the triple gem. The karmas which we have accumulated in relation with the sentient beings are purified by developing the love and compassion and the bodhicitta towards the same object, sentient beings. So there are many great qualities of the bodhicitta. All cannot be explained at this time. Anyway, when once the bodhicitta is generated in our mind, then all the other practices like paramitas and so on will automatically come by itself, because this mind, this bodhicitta, will exhort oneself completely through all the practices of bodhisattva. So when the bodhicitta is generated in our mind, then every actions we accumulate after that, those practices of the bodhisattva like giving and morality and patience, etc., all those practices, they all become a real cause to attain enlightenment. Even with the bodhicitta as the motivation, even if one feeds a crow or or a dog with a very little piece of bread, that also, although it's a very small act, but when it's accompanied with bodhicitta motivation, this also becomes a very great cause to attain enlightenment. So with this motivation, whatever practice of Dharma we do, all becomes a real practice or a real practice of great vehicle or bodhisattva conduct. If this motivation of bodhicitta is lacking, then even if how great virtue we accumulate or wholesome actions we accumulate, they are effective and they can produce very favorable fruits, but they cannot become a direct cause of enlightenment. So therefore in every practice, when one meditates or recites mantra or any other, when practice or whatever we engage in, we should try to do it with the bodhicitta motivation, dedicating all to the attainment of full enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. Then our practice becomes very powerful and will contribute to the final goal. So that we must put into practice. So that was a brief explanation about all three paths. And Je Tsong Khapa says that some people may wonder that if we dedicate everything for the benefit of sentient beings, if we give everything for the benefit of sentient beings, then maybe we don't receive anything for oneself. Maybe nothing will be left for oneself. For example, if one is shoots an arrow, if there are like three targets, one very far, one in the middle, and one very near, if one shoots at that very the distant target, then the arrow goes from here to there, and it will hit the target. It goes from here to there, that distance. If one shoots to the medium, then the middle one, then it will the arrow runs from that much from here to there, but no further. And in the same way, if one shoots to the nearest one, then it just goes from here to there, but not any further. So in the same way, we can practice Dharma with different motivations for different purpose. To attain full enlightenment, or to get some benefit in the future life, or to get some benefit in this life, like to remain healthy or well, and this kind of things, or to have no interference or something. So if one practices with this third motivation, then like that arrow which goes from here to that target, but which doesn't go any further, then if one practices it for for the purpose of well-being in this life, it will give that fruit, but it will not help anything further. Our practice will not give any further result. If one practice something, although its practice is the same, if one dedicated to attain a human rebirth in the future, then it will give that fruit. It will transcend this lifetime. It will go still further and give a fruit, a good result or a favorable fruit in the future. If one, even the practice is very little, like say, like to offer just one butter lamb or something like this, but if one does it with pure motivation of bodhicitta to attain enlightenment, for dedicating for the benefit of all sentient beings, then although the practice is very little, very simple, the benefit or the merit we accumulate is immeasurable, because it is dedicated to the immeasurable sentient beings. So we accumulate that much merit. So it will, like that arrow which is aimed at the more distant target, will pass through all these 3 stages. Like that, if one practice with the bodhicitta motivation, it will help in this life, it will help in the future life, and still further it will help us to attain enlightenment. So Je Tsong Khapa says now, this teaching, this Lam Rim teaching, Rinpoche will stop here this time, and then tomorrow he will give the initiation. So for those who are really sincerely want to take the initiation for practicing it with sort of a sincere motivation, are welcome to the initiation. But one shouldn't feel it's like an obligation. One doesn't have to come to the initiation. Also, if someone is not fully prepared in one's mind and is doubtful about it or something like that, it's better not to attend. There's no obligation about this. Otherwise, it may cause maybe confusion, or may cause a problem. So therefore, one doesn't need to, is not obliged to come. Also, not only for the initiation, the practice of the Lam Rim, the teaching Kyabje Rinpoche has given, if one he has given this teaching, but if one really feels that it has some meaning, it has some benefit, then one should put it into practice. But one is not obliged to put it into practice, even unwillingly. And one can, in general, one can practice any method or any religion or any tradition. That is all up to oneself. One can do as one wishes. But it's important, of course, each person or each teacher would praise his own traditions or his own teachings and methods. So it is up to individual oneself to analyze with the correct reason, with the right reason, judge carefully, and what one find really true and meaningful and beneficial, one can put it into practice. And otherwise, Kyabje Rinpoche said he cannot claim, he cannot say that you must practice Buddhism, you must practice the Gelug tradition, you must practice Tantra. He can't say this. So it is up to the individual. So those who feel feel ready to come to the initiation, they can come. So Kyabje Rinpoche anyway thinks that most of you who are here have come here with a sincere mind to learn Dharma, to put it into practice. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to make such an effort to sit here for a long time and giving a lot of trouble to your knees and everything. There's no reason. So he is quite sure that you have come here with a very sincere motivation, sincere mind. So that's all for this evening.